In the 13th century, a poet and Persian Sufi master, Fakhruddin Iraqi, meaning that he's from Iraq. And he's generally just called Iraqi. The author of this book here, the Lama'at, the Divine Flashes, proposed a kind of alternate formulation for zikr. So we would generally do La ilaha illallah. There's nothing but divinity. There's no God but God. And he very radically proposed that Sufis say, La ilaha illal eshq. La ilaha illal eshq. There's no God but love. And depending on who heard him propose this, it was either heresy or enlightenment. And this is the 13th century, so I didn't make this up. And in some ways, among certain people, it's no less radical today than it was then. Radical, one, because, he's changing a sacrosanct formula. La ilaha illallah, how dare you? But he might say, how can I not dare? We're talking about things upon which my life depends. This is the way I view the world. This is what makes my life worth living. Yeah, I'll dare. Like Macbeth, I dare do all that may become a man. It's like, yeah, I'll dare all the things that make me what I am, that help me live into what I am and what I must be. And for Iraqi, it's very much that. He is a master in what is called in Sufism the Mazhab-i Eshq, what we're talking about this whole weekend. The Mazhab-i Eshq, the school of love within Sufism. It's sometimes set opposed to what is sometimes called the school of knowledge. It's a little bit of an artificial distinction because there are masters in the school of knowledge who are great love poets. And Iraqi himself, one of the greatest love poets, is no slouch as an intellectual either, and really tries to marry these two schools in his book. But among these masters who really emphasize love as a spiritual path, that's just it. La ilaha illa eshq. There is no God but love. And there, as we've talked about already, the word that's used for love here is not Mahabba, which is love, baseline love, gentle love, loving kindness. It's Eshq. You can even hear it in Eshq. Eshq. My teacher kind of playfully called it horny love. But it's love on fire. It's passionate love. It's got Eshq, and you almost say it like that. There's an embrace implicit in it that you're going to grab something, take hold of it. And so there's this power in it. There is no God but love. Now, that's something that's taken really seriously among Sufis. Like, what does that mean? Some people might know in the New Testament, I think it's 1 John 4:8. 1 John 4:8. Those who have not loved do not know God, for God is love. That's 1 John 4:8. If you haven't loved, you don't know God. Semicolon. For God is love. God is love. Now, I thought a lot about that. And that's really interesting to say. God is love. And one of the most interesting things to me, and I'm no mathematician, but I know an equation when I see one. God is love is God equals love. And what do we know about any equation? You can switch the terms on either side of that equals sign. And then it says love equals God. Love is God. And that makes way more sense to me than God is love. I switch the terms, love is God, and I get it. I finally get it. It makes sense in my world. And there are very clear implications for love is God. Love is God means that any act of love, no matter how small, and whether you call it compassion or whether it's for a child or your dog or a lover, any act of love, somebody's fallen in the street and you immediately reach out without thinking to help them up. Any act of love is a hierophany, is a divine manifestation, a breakthrough of God into the world, which seems so absent of God. How is God going to become present? What are these divine manifestations, these hierophanies? They are acts of love. The feeling of love that ends in an act of love. And if we want more God in the world, that's more love in the world, more acts of love. It translates very directly to a very practical way of being spiritual. Love is God. And so, like, the metaphysics become easy for me at that point. And it's just like, it's everything. It's a gentle caress, you know, on the back of somebody you care about in a moment that's difficult for them. It's even the ache in your heart. It's love making. You know, you want more God, make more love. Great. You know, like I can get into this spirituality. But not just that, you know, but it's everything. It's all the relationships. Relationship to planet, loving relationship to planet. Like, how do we meet it? You know, with a fist? Or with the hand that touches and meets it and greets it and feels into it? How do we meet one another? With love. And so for me, this is a very practical spirituality. Not highly esoteric. Or if it is, it's just, I kind of want to accept it without thinking a whole lot about it. And I do plenty of thinking about things in intense ways, but I don't feel like I need to overanalyze God is love. I'm just willing to accept that. It's good enough for me. If I'm going to put something of ultimate value in my life, put it at the center of my life, call it home, that's going to be it. That's a good reason to do anything in life. You know? God is love. So for Sufis, love is not an attribute of God. It is God. And, you know, there's a distinction to be made there. You know, a lot of people say, well, God has all these attributes, and love is one of them. But when you say God is love, then you're doing a thing where love isn't necessarily everything that's sweet and gooey. It's all the stuff, you know, as anybody that's ever been in a relationship knows. All the stuff, it's all there. And so, you know, when you raise love to the level of an absolute, well, an absolute has to include all. And the only thing that you have to deal with then around love is that it's not just the sweetness and the beauty. It is the whole trajectory of love that includes difficulties and pain and progress and transformation in an overarching experience, in an evolutionary experience that includes the whole of everything. And so sometimes there are loving things that don't look loving, you know, in the immediate foreground of your life, which in hindsight you might be grateful for and embrace. So it's that kind of love. I want to invite us to do a round of this simple zikr, this controversial zikr, La ilaha illal Eshq, has no special movements. It's just an intention and a desire to build that connection. My God is love. That's the altar at which I'll worship my entire life. And I'll build it here. Among Inayati Sufis, universalist Sufis of my lineage, we often do an invocation that goes something like this before zikr. Hands out, right hand over the heart, left hand over the right hand, right thumb over left thumb, spread the fingers, kind of making a winged heart. Head to the sky, and as it comes down, this is not my body. Chin to the left shoulder, and as it lulls and drifts across the chest, this is the temple of the heart. This is the temple of the heart. So like when you begin practice, this is the temple. Doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to go to an external temple, but you do have to make a temple. And you know, change the frequency on like how you're living. You know, it's the ordinary life. Yeah, I'm checking my phone. No, I'm switching now. I'm entering the temple. And it's in the temple precincts, that I do my practice. And so we do it like that. This is the temple of the heart. And we say this invocation. Toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty. The only being, united with all the illuminated souls, who form the embodiment of the message, the spirit of guidance. Amen. And so let's do a round of this most controversial and perhaps most sacred zikr. La ilaha illal Eshq. 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 La ilaha illa l'Eshq. 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 ilaha illa l'Eshq. La 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 ilaha illa